Everyone, my name is Rosa. I'm one of the marketing directors for RowdyHacks, and I will be presenting the importance of UI and UX design in product development. So, what is UI and UX? Both of these terms tend to be used interchangeably, but they do not mean the same thing. So, user interface is focused on how the product looks, like how the web page or the application looks, and the visual appeal of that application, while user experience focuses on making that experience and that interaction with the application pleasant. So a little bit more detail on UI. Like I said before, UI focuses on just the visual appeal of the product. It deals with how kind of like how icons look on the surface, where they're placed in an application or a website, the fonts that are used for the application or website, the like button feedback in applications. So when you click on a button, like does it change color? Does it let the user know that the button was clicked? And things of that nature. The responsibilities for like a UI designer, sorry about that, a UI designer can include stuff like creating mock-ups, doing different wireframes, and prototyping the product. It is not the same thing as graphic design. I know that they do have kind of similar responsibilities as far as creating the visual aspects of an application. But while the UI designer focuses on the interaction with the application, graphic design does not. Graphic design's focus is entirely on images. So creating a logo or creating an icon in the application. UX, on the other hand, focuses on people's experience with the application. So as you're clicking to a website, is it easy to use? Is it easy to read? Does it make you uncomfortable? Does it make you happy? Like all these kinds of different experiences are created by UX designers. They want to make sure that you want to come back to that website or you trust them with your information. And that's very important, especially for example, like bank websites. If a bank website looked like it was like made in like at home by someone who isn't experienced, the users are most likely not going to trust that bank with their money, with their information. And that is very important. Some of the stuff that UX designers do that may not come to mind when you think about UX designer is gathering data. You have to gather a lot of user data to know what the user wants. If you don't know what the user expects to see in an application, a website, or just a regular product, then you don't know how to deliver that to the user. Some of the similar responsibilities to UI, though, would be wireframing and prototyping. Although they're similar, their focus is a little bit different. Like I said before, while UI focuses on like how it looks, the UX will focus more on like, does it make sense? Does it make sense to go from this page to this page when you click this button? The other thing as well that UX does focus on as well is meeting both user and business goals. They want to make sure that both sides of the coin get the most out of the product and doesn't want to cut one short. So here's a better image of like kind of like what UI and UX would look like. So as I said before, UI is kind of like the surface. It's all the things that you see that you just don't really think about. You just kind of look at it and it's like, oh, it looks nice, or like, oh, this is the menu bar, or oh, if I click this, it goes here. The UX is more of all the research behind the decisions where that icon goes, or why Why does the profile icon look like a person? Kind of stuff like that. I know it can be a little bit confusing at first, but when we kind of dive into it a little bit more, it'll make a little bit more sense. Here's another image as well. This one's a little easier to understand. So like for UI, in this particular example, like the ketchup bottle looks great, but if it's made out of glass, it's harder to get that last bit of ketchup out of the bottle. With UX, it's more about the experience. Like, is it easy to get the ketchup out, etc. So now we're going to take a closer look at UI. So a good way to learn like what determines good UI is to look at good UI. It's kind of like the same concept of like to know good design, you need to be exposed to good design. So we're going to look at Airbnb for the first one. So some of the things you notice right away, it's very clean, it's really easy to read. Just like we normally expect, the menu bar is up at the top. And then we have the little logo on the left, and the logo is clickable. So we kind of know that if we're anywhere else, so we click on the logo, something will happen. And it has a really simple interface. So you know immediately when you're going to the website that if you want to make a reservation, all you have to do is fill this out on the left. If you need any more information when you're scrolling down, it'll give you a little bit more information, and it's not overwhelming. It's not hard on the eyes, which is very important. Now let's see. So host and experience, we're going to click on that and see what happens. So even if I didn't know what host and experience meant, from the very beginning of this page, I would know immediately like what they're talking about. And from the videos, I can see like, oh, if I scroll down, then I'll get a little bit more information. So it's very simple, very easy. And we go back to home, and here we go. So this is a really good example of very good UI. As you noticed, good UI doesn't necessarily mean crowd the page. It just means making like simple modifications here or there that are expected. Another website we're going to look at is Boosted Boards. So I'll be honest, I've never been on this website before, so I feel like it's a really good way to check out good UI. So first thing, we see the images. It's really easy to scroll through. Then we go down, we have a little bit more information. And now towards the end, oh, this is not the end. Cool. So they did a really good job of kind of giving you an idea of what they're talking about. And not only that, they're also including you in the experience, which kind of delves into a little bit more of the UX side with their like choices of images and the way that they set up their website. Now, let's look at really bad UI. Let's see. So this is an example of what you shouldn't do when you're creating a website. So off the bat, there's a lot of images. You don't know where to go. You don't know what they're trying to represent. When you look at this, I'm not sure about you guys, but when I look at this, like, I think I'm going to get a virus from being on this website. And as someone who's trying to sell, which I think this website is someone who's trying to sell things, like, this is not a trustworthy website that you would go to buy something that you need. So you'll get much less business, much less like recognition from this. Here's another one. This one isn't a bad website. It's actually very decent, but there are some things that they do that aren't as visually appealing, and you want to catch people's attention. You don't want to bore them. So if we look at work, a lot of the things that they have are very like monotone in color. Part of user interface design is catching people's attention and guiding people's eye to different parts of the page. Here, all we see is just kind of black and not black, gray and white all across, and some black and gray, but it isn't appealing. It doesn't say, "Oh, this is a really good, like this person knows what they're doing," or like this person has a lot of different experiences. It feels almost like they're doing the same thing multiple times. And those are kind of like the dangers of having really bad UI. All right, now let's look at UX. So for UX, it's a little harder to kind of show you guys what good UX is over the recording, but I will do my very best. So here we go. So Duolingo, I'm sure some of you guys have heard about this website. So Duolingo is a application / website that focuses on helping people learn a different language. So a lot of times when people think of learning a different language, it's a very like scary thing. Like it seems like a lot of work. It seems like it's very overwhelming. Like you don't know where to start. You don't know where to go. And Duolingo does a really, really good job of simplifying that experience. So they break everything down, and you can see it immediately that all like different languages are broken up. It's easy to kind of switch between languages if you need to. And because of the way that the interface is designed, it's very pleasant. It's not at all terrifying. And it's more like almost like a game, actually. It seems more fun than it is scary, which takes a lot of like time and research. Another website that did a really good job at that would be this one. This one's a little bit less known. It's called Helvetica. For this one, what they did is, again, taking a daunting task and changing people's experience with it. So doing chores. They took the idea of like chores are boring, chores are things that people don't want to do, and they turned it into kind of like a game where you get points and you get different accessories based on how much you complete those chores. And by doing that, they're making doing chores less of a like drag and more of like a fun activity that they can do to continue on the day. And that is really what UX is. UX is changing an experience, it's creating an experience. And that is very important because we want people to want to come back. We want people to not delete an application immediately. Or like we saw on that other website for UI, like close the tab immediately thinking you're going to get a virus. Like that's not what you want. So, recognizing and executing good UI and UX does take some time and practice. It isn't easy by any means, but it is achievable. I did leave some exercises on here that you guys can look at to kind of like dive into UI and UX if you're interested. They're really easy to follow, and they do help to kind of start building your like design mentality for these particular terms. Practice does make perfect, so remember that you're not going to get it the first time, but little by little, you'll start seeing more and more gradual results. If you have any questions about anything that I covered in the slides, I know that I kind of went a little quick with the time, but if you have any questions at all, or if you just want to chat, go ahead and message me on Discord, or if you can't find me, you can ask some of the other organizers. They'll be able to point you to me. And I hope you guys have fun hacking.